What's up, guys? Sorry it took so long for me to make this video. I left my video camera in the States and my mom sent it to me, so thank you, Mom. Also sorry for my voice. I'm really kind of sick right now, so bear with me. I would call my first few weeks in Spain, how many times can I make an ass of myself in 3 weeks? It started off fine. My flights to Madrid were really smooth, really safe. I got picked up at the airport by my host family, and for those of you that don't know, it's Maria and Miguel, our husband and wife, and then they have one kid named Victor, and he's 10. Miguel is a chemical engineer, and Maria's job is kind of intimidating. So the Spanish government works like, here's the president, and then they have ministers, like 5 different ministers under the president. And then under the ministers are like these 2 positions. Under each minister are these 2 positions, and she is one of those positions. I thought she was like a PR person, but no, she's pretty high up in the government, which is kind of scary. She could have me deported. Classes didn't start until a week after I arrived. So, and the parents had to work, so I watched Victor the whole week. He is, to put it nicely, he's a little devil, a little Satan child. He was showing me around the Madrid area because his parents were working, and every time I turned my head, he'd run and hide somewhere, which would be fine, but I had no idea where I was or where we were going. So that was a little frustrating, and he does that all the time. He still does that all the time. And every time he sees a Mini Cooper or a yellow car, he'll smack me and say like, yellow or Mini Cooper. And which is also a fun game. But one time I was paying for our street vendor ice cream cones, and I was giving change to the guy, and he comes up and goes, yellow, and knocks all the money out of my hand, which is just alright, enough. And then every time I tell him that he can't do something, or if I tell him no, he has to do something else, he freaks out, he hits his head, he pounds the ground, he starts to cry, like a tantrum. And every time, this happens at least twice a day. I don't know if this is just a European thing, if the children run the show, or if it's just this family thing. So I was getting really frustrated about all those things until one time we were in a crowded area, and so I grabbed his hand across the street, and while we were holding hands, I kind of hear him say to himself, he goes, hermanos, which means brothers in Spanish. And so that was a part, a really redeeming part. This kid is probably by himself, he's an only child, and so he's probably just happy to have someone there. Story time. During the first week, I had to take Victor to go get his uniform from his school, because he's starting school in a week. And while I was there, I was waiting in this huge line of all these parents, and we were all waiting to get the uniforms, and the parents just started asking me these questions, all in Spanish. And if you know me, I haven't touched Spanish since high school, so I didn't know anything. And they all kept asking me these questions over and over again, and everyone was speaking Spanish everywhere. And it got to the point where it was so overwhelming that I had to physically get out of line and go outside, because I was so overwhelmed. Because I knew Spanish people, they obviously speak a different language, but it's such a weird concept. You go to their country, and everyone's living the same life as you. They're so similar to you, but no one can communicate with you. And it's the weirdest concept. It's a weird concept to grasp, but yeah, it was very overwhelming. The first 3 days were honestly the hardest days I've had so far. And after, you just gotta tell yourself you're here, if you want to communicate, you better learn Spanish. Another story was, I was taking Victor out to lunch, and this is all during the first week, by the way. I was taking Victor out to lunch, and we went to this Thai restaurant, and it was around lunch. Yeah, lunchtime is at 2:30 here. So we were sitting, and I saw other people drinking beers, drinking glasses of wine, And I was like, hey, like first week here, I'm 20, I can finally drink. I'm gonna get myself a drink. And so I looked on the menu and I saw a bottle, or what I thought was a beer bottle, and items listed under the beer bottle. And so I was like, oh cool, Magno. I bet that's just some kind of like cool Spanish beer, because it was only like $2.50. And so I ordered that, and this lady comes out with a bigger bottle, and I was just like, oh, like maybe beer here is served in a bigger bottle. And so she puts down the glass and starts pouring it, and she keeps pouring and keeps looking at me like with like a shocked face, and I was just like, well, obviously I want my beer filled to the top because it's a beer. And so finally she gets to the top and she stops and she walks away kind of stunned. And so I take a sip of it. Not beer. Magno is like 40% alcohol. I found out later it was brandy. But that's why she was looking at me all funny, is because I poured this huge glass of brandy, and she was probably like, when is he gonna cut off? And so I take a sip of it, and I'm just like, oh like God, I can't have this. And so I call her back. I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry. There's no way in hell I can drink this. And like, can you please take it back? And like, she kind of understood me. And so I could tell she was really annoyed. And she took it back. And she was like, what else do you want? And I, like, the only like other thing I knew what it was sangria. So I said, I'll just have a sangria. And so she rolls her eyes and walks away. And then she brings out this big pitcher of sangria, like a huge pitcher. And I was just like, I only meant like a glass, like just one glass. And I think she like was fed up with me, because she was like, leave till you finish. And I was like, no, like I can't finish that. And she's like, no, check, you finish. And I looked at Victor like, is she serious? And he was just like, and so I was like, oh my gosh, I have to finish this. And so 20 minutes, 25, probably half an hour later, I ended up finishing this pitcher of sangria and walking home with Victor. I was pretty drunk, guys. Needless to say, I made us take a siesta when we got home, so I could sleep off most of it. But yeah, it wasn't a problem, but I learned my lesson, and I learned what Magno was. One thing that happened, the family, they listen to a lot of American music, but I don't think they know a lot what it means, because one night, they were making dinner, and they were all singing, we up all night to get lucky, we up all night to get lucky. And I was just like, oh, like, okay, like, this family and their 10-year-old are singing Get Lucky by Daft Punk and Pharrell. And so I went up to them and I'm like, do you know what this means? And Miguel, the father, he was like, of course, like, get lucky, you go to Vegas and you pull the slots and like you get lucky and win money. And they were having so much fun, and I didn't want to like ruin their buzz, so I was just like, yeah, good job, like that's very American. But so finally a week later, school started, which means Victor went to school, I went to school, and things got a lot better. I finally met more people my age, and they're really nice, and I could finally hang out with people. And that brings on the topic of Madrid nightlife, which is so crazy. And because you come home around 6:30 or 7, and I mean, I can only do one night a weekend because I'm so exhausted from that last night. And I really want to go into stories, but I know my mom watches these videos, and so do some other adults. And I am a very mature adult as well. And that's all I have to say about Madrid nightlife. Some things I've noticed is stereotypes that Spaniards have about Americans are kind of funny. My host family was like, oh, like, you're American, you love your hot dogs and hamburgers, and they then told me that they like think we eat hot dogs and hamburgers like every day. Like that's just all we do is eat hot dogs and hamburgers. I saw this preview for a show on TV, and it's called The Americans, and it was like these people, they were like making out, they were like wearing their like bra and underwear, they were like having sex with each other, they were pulling knives on each other, they were like trying to steal each other's babies, pulling knives on each other's babies. It was just really ridiculous stuff, and I was just hoping that that's not what they think Americans are like, because we're not, at least the most of us aren't. It's nice walking down in Madrid because their crosswalks, they have a chirping sound whenever you can cross. And so you don't even have to look up if you want to cross the street because you can just hear it. Unfortunately, no one here seems to have the same sense of urgency as I do when I walk across the street. I mean, if you're my friend, you know I walk really quickly. I'm always like getting places. I try to get there. I don't deedle my way across the street. Unfortunately for me, everyone here does. Even like businessmen in suits walking across the street, they're just kind of like casually stopping and looking at things and like talking to people. And so I'm always like pushing my way through the crowd. So maybe I have to learn to be patient because that's just not that ain't me. And I have to maybe learn to take my time as well. But fortunately, everyone here is very friendly, especially to me. My first few days here, I went exploring by myself, and I had a map out, and I didn't even ask anybody for help. And it's like this guy came up and was just like, "Hey, you can go here, here, and here." And this happened to me like 2 or 3 different times, where I was just looking at a map and I didn't even ask for help, and people came up and helped me. And everyone's like very nice to me, and I can't speak Spanish, and everyone's like very nice about that. And I can't speak highly enough about the Spanish people. On top of they're also beautiful. At least down in like the city of Madrid, like I feel like I'm walking like in a Vogue magazine, because everyone's just like very dressed up and everyone's just like gorgeous, and it's just like, well shit, like I hope I like, qualify to walk on these streets with you guys, because they're beautiful. Usually the food here tastes, actually it's kind of bland, only because it's very healthy. If you know me, you know that my food groups in America are pizza, Chipotle, Taco Bell, and Highway Diner. Those are the things that's my diet. Here, there's fast food is way more scarce. The portions are way smaller. When I eat here, I usually eat a small amount of fruits, a slice of a baguette, a small amount of meats, and like a whole lot of vegetables with like a glass of water. And that's my meal. And don't get me wrong, I've eaten very healthy since I've been here. I feel like this is the healthiest I've eaten ever. But I'm always hungry just because their portions are so small. So I'm exhausted. I'm hungry all the time. I'm also exhausted all the time because people just always stay out really late here, and they get up at the same time as Americans do. So I don't know how they do it. I don't know why New York is called the city that never sleeps, because I think Spain should be called the country that never sleeps. So that's all I have to say. Sorry, I probably had more stories, but it's been 3 weeks, so I've lost a lot of them already. I'll try to make more updates videos more often now, because I finally got my camera. Before I go, I want to wish happy September birthdays to my competitive counterpart, Kelsey Bono. The newly Delta Gamma, Valerie Peterson. Good work, Delta Gamma. Happy 21st birthday to Chase Kruger, jealous. Happy birthday, Bridget Reichenbach. Can't wait to see you come January. Happy birthday, Aaron Zart. Sucks that you're not 21. Happy birthday, Addie Fairchild. Good thing you're not 21. Happy birthday to my spirit animals, Logan and Jordan. Hope you guys are watching. Happy birthday to the busiest girl I know, Sarah Cast. And happy birthday to my brother-in-law, Matt Conway. I think you're 26 now. Something ancient. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the near future.